The Natural History Museum holds the greatest natural history collection in the world. Thousands of visitors flood through its doors each day to see everything from dinosaurs to dodos, sea monsters to giant sloths. And the star attraction that draws the biggest crowds is Hope, a giant skeleton of the largest mammal on Earth, the blue whale.
The first time people come in and they see her diving down towards them, there's a lot of wow moments, and the children are great. They're like,
Every visitor to the museum will pass under this 4.5-ton, 25-metre-long skeleton. And checking she's safe to hang high over their heads is a crucial job that can only happen out of hours.
it won't be a good look, Rob, if you crash into it, OK? I'm just saying.
Today, a team of specialists are checking her over.
Big bit coming, look. Ooh, look at that.
Led by Head of Conservation, Lorraine Cornish.
So you can appreciate access to Hope is very challenging for us. She looks magnificent, but looking after her takes a little bit more time and thought.
When you're 130 years old, like Hope, your skeleton is fragile, so needs to be kept under constant watch.
We go through the whole length of the skeleton, a bit like a medical record where you check through, and then an inspection. Just less is more. I just need him to make sure less is more, all right? No more, Rob. Back off.
As soon as they get up close, the team spot that Hope needs attention.
Underneath the skull in the palate area, there's quite a few cracks. And on some of the vertebrae, they're quite large and heavy. They've got some cracks and joins. Are they opening up anymore? Are they stable?
They now have just 3 days to check over 200 bones to make sure she's secure. Even though Hope's been in the museum for over a century, very little is known about her life. But that might all be about to change. Behind the scenes, hundreds of world-class experts are uncovering secrets about the natural world. Richard Sabin has been the museum's whale specialist for the past 29 years. And he's embarking on a new investigation into Hope.
Now, this rather large crate, which reminds me of something from the movie Indiana Jones, actually contains a surprising part of Hope.
The crate contains parts from Hope's vast mouth.
This is the filter mechanism, the strainer that blue whales have inside their mouths to strain their food from the ocean, things like krill, small fish. We've got about 800 of these inside this crate, and this isn't something that people get to see. This is something that scientists get to play with, and I'm in a very privileged position. You know, we've had Hope in our collections for just under 130 years, and she's effectively been a mystery for most of that time. I've made it my personal mission to basically become a detective and find out as much information as possible about Hope's life, to add flesh, if you like, to the bones, to really develop that story.
Today, Richard's taking tiny samples from Hope's mouth plates, which will be analysed using cutting-edge techniques to reveal new information about her life.
Now, this is where it starts to look a little bit like I'm a drug dealer. This may just look like dust, but actually it's very important dust. And we've developed techniques now that allow us to extract very, very detailed information using chemical analysis from these individual plates. And this will be used to answer more questions about Hope's life.
Richard is hoping the samples will tell him exactly where Hope lived and how far she travelled. But first, they must be sent to a specialist lab before he gets his answers. The Dinosaur Gallery is one of the most popular and terrifying spaces in the museum, housing skeletons of T-Rex and Triceratops, alongside life-size animatronic models. So if something goes wrong, it's a big problem. This morning, engineers Alex and Glenn have had an urgent call-out to one of the malfunctioning robotic dinosaurs.
So this one, we think, needs to have the back of his neck looked at. To you. There are a lot of children who are genuinely terrified of these things. Yeah, recently these models were taken down into our workshops and had the fur and the feathers added, rather more like the fluffy toys we sell in the gift shop.
Trolley coming in?
The motor in its neck has stopped working, and now the dino's head won't move properly. To avoid some very disappointed kids, it's crucial they get it up and running before the museum opens for the day.
We've got deadlines to stick to here. We've got the public in half an hour, so we've got to get this down into the workshop and have a closer look.
Dino delivery. We're going to find a place to put her and wake her up.
Can you make this part move, Glenn? Do the head turn, that one.
Alex and Glenn need to open her up.
Dino vet is one of the descriptions of my job.
Children come to the museum and expect to see them working. It's a big disappointment when they're not. It's one of the things that people complain about if the dinosaurs are not working.
Fortunately, with a spanner, a spare part and a bit of elbow grease,
Right, let's get it back upstairs.
the dino is up and running again.
Try and have it running before 10. He says he feels better. Well, that's a job well done. Children will be in half an hour. Back to terrifying the kids.
Coming up, Lorraine is up against it.
This is where the magic is going to happen. This is where the exhibition is going to be.
And the world's most prized dinosaur fossil.
I'm a little bit scared to touch it. It's just absolutely priceless. It's impossible to put a value on this specimen.
The Natural History Museum is gearing up for the biggest exhibition it's ever held. Fantastic Beasts, The Wonder of Nature is inspired by the famous movie about the Wizarding World, and the museum needs it to be a huge hit. They'll be displaying fantastical creatures from the film, alongside some of the real-life animals that inspired them.
This is where the magic is going to happen. This is where the exhibition is going to be.
But time is tight for Head of Conservation Lorraine Cornish, who has just weeks before it's set to open to the public.
So now we're ready to start installing over 120 objects. It will take 6 people a month to do that. So everyone's getting all the specimens ready, and then this space will be so busy with people right up to the 11th hour normally. Literally the night before, we're usually still doing things.
Today, Lorraine is getting her first peek at some very special items from the film that have just arrived from Warner Brothers. With thousands of fans expected to visit the exhibition, it's vital that everything is in perfect condition and it doesn't disappoint.
These are super special, so I want to make sure
We're looking after them.
this very large, odd-looking thing is the horn of an orumpant, which is one of the fantastic beasts in the film. And we're just checking it over to make sure everything's as it should be. There are some cracks here, but they're deliberate. They're not ones I should be worried about, so that's OK. It's not every day you handle your rumpant horn, though. Few people can say that. It's just great. It's such fun.
The orumpant is one of the fantasy creatures that escapes from Newt Scamander's suitcase and is a bit like a magical rhinoceros.
So this is Newt's suitcase, and who wouldn't be excited at carrying it? So Newt Scamander is the main character, and he's what's called a magizoologist. And he goes around the world and he looks for and studies fantastic beasts. Getting all this stuff out is like Christmas and birthday rolled into one. This is the wand for Newt Scamander. I so wish I had a magic wand. Sometimes I just want to say, exhibition ready, and it's done.
Having unpacked today's movie props, Lorraine now has just over 100 to go, including the exhibition showpiece, a brand new dinosaur. The Natural History Museum is home to over 80 million different items, but its rarest are kept under lock and key, hidden away at the back of the museum's main hall, in the Treasures Gallery. Today, one of the museum's dinosaur experts, Susie Maidment, has been granted special access to examine the most prized fossil in the entire museum.
This is Archaeopteryx. It's probably the most important fossil of a dinosaur that there is anywhere in the world. And I'm a little bit scared to touch it. It's just absolutely priceless. It's impossible to put a value on this specimen.
At 147 million years old, this bird-like dinosaur is so highly valued because it was the first fossil to reveal that every species of bird alive today evolved from dinosaurs. Susie's been at the museum for 2 years and is one of the very few experts allowed this close. She's making a record of the fossil for other specialists to study.
It is a bit stressful being this close to it. This case is almost never opened. It's very, very exciting for me to be able to have my head inside it right now and to be able to get a really close look at this fossil without the glass in the way.
Archaeopteryx was discovered in Germany in 1861 and has been at the museum for over 150 years. And it's the mix of its features that makes it so intriguing.
This specimen has a number of characteristics of both dinosaurs and birds. We have these beautiful feathers, which are so characteristic of birds. We've also got a wishbone, which is a bone in the shoulder region, which helps birds fly. And we've got a claw on the foot that allows birds to perch on branches. There are also a number of quite clearly dinosaurian-like features. You can see it's got a very, very long tail, and we don't have tails in modern birds that aren't just made of feathers. So these sorts of features make it much more similar to dinosaurs than to birds. I think Jurassic Park has a huge amount to answer for our opinions about what dinosaurs look like. We tend to think of dinosaurs as being these kind of big, scaly, reptilian-like animals, but actually what we now know is that many of the meat-eating dinosaurs were feathered. And I think this kind of changes our opinion about what dinosaurs might have been like. They were probably very bird-like in their behaviour, and actually many of them we wouldn't have been able to distinguish from birds today. And I think when you look at some types of bird, if you've ever looked an ostrich in the eye, I think they look a bit like dinosaurs, actually.
Everyone who works at the Natural History Museum has a favourite part of the collection, including housekeeping supervisor Debbie Marlowe. Hers are the ancient skulls and skeletons.
We are now entering human evolution. This is my lovely heads. I think they're gorgeous. I mean, look at their lovely faces. Nice chiselled eyebrows. Nice dinky little ears. Very handsome. I'm giving them a lovely massage now, because they deserve it. It's my little salon.
Debbie's favourite gallery displays skulls, skeletons and models of early humans, going back 7 million years.
I could do with a bit of a haircut. I could tidy that up. A bit of beard needs doing. I think any barber would love to have him. He looks quite cheeky, actually. He's quite a cheeky chappy, isn't he? He's like, hey, baby. It's quite... Oh, yeah. I'm all right, you know. What do you think? He's one of them. Hey, look at me. He's definitely not my type, though. He can smoulder as much as he wants. It's not working on me. Sorry, love. Should have jeans and T-shirt on. It'll be all right, then. Look, do that. Censored. Should put big warning up before everyone comes in. Ready for everyone to come and have a good look at him now? In all his glory.
Over in the museum's main hall, the conservation team have been investigating the cracks in Hope, the museum's 130-year-old blue whale. Now, Head of Conservation Lorraine is giving the museum star exhibit a final inspection to ensure she's safe for the thousands of visitors who will walk underneath her.
So this will take me up and away, so that I can get up close and personal with Hope and have a look. Here we go, to infinity and beyond. I always worry that I'm going to go and hit her, but I know I won't. I don't mind heights, but this is quite wobbly. So the height's all right, but then when it starts to wibble wobble, it can be tricky. I'm looking at cracks. So the mandibles are amazingly heavy, and if you can imagine, the structure is being supported. So we're really looking at structural stability. We're just watching some of the historic older cracks so that they're not opening up. We have to just make sure that we're happy with those cracks. They haven't opened any wider. That's why we take lots of pictures and just keep an eye on things.
Fortunately, Hope's cracks haven't opened up, and she can be passed as secure.
Here we go. Job done for now. Lovely, lovely.
Behind closed doors, whale expert Richard Sabin is trying to uncover the mysteries of Hope the blue whale's life. He's keen to find out exactly where Hope may have lived and how far she travelled. It's been weeks since he sent Hope samples for investigation. He's received the results, and they're extraordinary. The analysis of the chemical makeup of Hope's mouth plates means he can now chart previously unknown details of where she migrated during the last few years of her life.
What we're actually looking at here is Hope's journey, 1886 into 1887. This is the route that she would have took from the north, between Iceland and Norway, south towards Cape Verde. Then we have her return journey. This is her going north again. We can see that every year, Hope was effectively doing a round trip from the feeding grounds in the north down to the warmer waters off the west coast of Africa. Looking at this distance on the map, you're talking about 6,000 miles in the space of a single year. That's remarkable for any animal, let alone an animal that's out in the ocean. The fact that I'm plotting a journey that was made by a blue whale over 140 years ago really does quite blow my mind, in all honesty. And to think that we could actually add information about her life in so much detail, it makes it very emotional. It's something that you don't normally encounter with museum specimens in natural history collections.
But around 2 years before Hope died, the trail runs cold.
In the penultimate year of her life, that's 1889 into 1890, the data become very, very unclear. She's still in these warmer waters off the west coast of Africa, and she stays there. And we don't really know why. This is where the real detective work comes in.
Richard needs more tests to find out why Hope suddenly stopped migrating. The museum's biggest exhibits might pull in the crowds, but less than 1% of its collection is on display to the public. The rest is kept for research in special access areas like the Cocoon, which is in the museum's west wing. The Cocoon is crammed full of over 20 million specimens, including 2.5 million flies reserved for scientific research. Erica McAllister is one of the experts in charge of this collection, and flies are her life's obsession.
Everyone who starts off on flies is like, oh, I don't know how to pronounce that. My advice with a lot of scientific names is just go quickly. You can look at whales and they're great and they're fun, but I can go into my garden and I can see more mayhem and mischief there than I will by looking at a whale. Obviously, I have a bent for slightly unusual and entertaining behaviours. Oh, look here. See those little faces? Aren't they cute? You see their little face? Not their face, obviously, that's their anal spiracles. So you're looking at the backside of a maggot, which always makes me giggle. Can you not see the little dot on top of the end of the pin? That's obviously a fully formed adult fly. These are commonly called the no-see-ums. And there's a specific reason for that, because they are quite small. So, that obviously is a pig's foot, but in it, it's got loads of little holes where the fleas live. We get these in humans. So, those romantic walks on the beach, not so romantic when you've got a flea burrowing through your foot. And then this is a lovely example of the chicken flea, and they live in the lids of chickens. If you look on their eyelid, you can see little rows of tiny little fleas, which is quite amazing. It's got to be slightly itchy, I guess. So now I can use these to horrify you, which is great for education reasons. So, we have all these beautiful models.
Erica's collection also includes some 90-year-old wax models that are supersized versions of the real specimens.
I could show you my pubic lice in a minute. That is always a winner. Everyone has favourites, and the pubic lice are mine, because, you know, look at them. So here we have a head lice and a pubic lice, and I think it's pretty obvious which one is which. One lives on your head and your thorax. Okay, your hair is slightly different there to your hair in your nether region. Therefore, their claws are shaped differently to hold on to different types of hair. And you can see why they call it crabs as well, because it's definitely got a crab-like structure to it. It's brilliant. They're dying out. We don't really know why. It could be deforestation, but we don't know.
Coming up, the museum welcomes a new dinosaur to its collection.
I'm super excited to get this beautiful dinosaur. It's just going to be spectacular.
And a new discovery about hope.
I've just taken a look at the results and processed what's come back. I'm incredibly excited by this.
The Natural History Museum covers an area the size of 200 tennis courts and has 5 cafes, 3 shops and 28 different galleries. Making sure this huge museum is ready for the public is a mammoth task, and it's all down to duty manager Jack Evans.
Eva, can I grab the sales radios? Have a good day. See you in a bit.
He has just 45 minutes to get everything ready before the museum opens for the day.
The museum's a very glamorous building, but I reassure you that there's not always glamorous sides to the job.
Jack manages a team of 65 front-of-house staff who run the 14-acre site.
It always gets to this time, and it gets a bit more exciting, because the visitors are on their way. At the top of the stairs, always knackered. I think by the end of the day, we're all kind of like this, like keeled over. It's such a physical job. My step count would probably be about 23 to 25,000 steps a day, and like 12 flights of stairs. So you've got to be quite athletic, which I'm not. Hello, control, duty manager, over. Just checking in with housekeeping to see if the building's clean enough for us to open. I'm not getting a response. This is the duty manager calling any available housekeeping supervisor or manager, over. It's kind of a bit rude if they don't answer. Hi there, just to double check that the museum is squeaky clean and ready for our visitors, over. Hello, Control. Are we ready to open the museum on time? Cool. Thank you. Out. We are indeed.
Time is ticking for the museum's major upcoming exhibition, Fantastic Beasts, the Wonder of Nature. Head of Conservation Lorraine Cornish and her team have to prepare over 100 items, including the replica skeleton of a recently discovered dinosaur, Dracorex hogwartsia. The original is in America, where it was discovered in 2004 and is named after Harry Potter's school.
I'm super excited to get this beautiful dinosaur. It's going to be the centrepiece of our exhibition with the most amazing name, Dracorex hogwartsia, Dragon King of the Hogwarts. It's just going to be spectacular. You've got Wizarding World and magic, and you've got a dinosaur. What else do you need to start your exhibition?
The complex skeleton has arrived in pieces without a manual and needs assembling. So Lorraine has called in dinosaur expert Susie Maidment.
As a dinosaur researcher, what part of the dinosaur are you interested in?
Most dinosaur experts like skulls, to be honest with you, because skulls can tell us a lot about feeding and things like that. And I don't know, they're a bit more personal, aren't they?
They are a bit more personal.
Yeah.
Well, you know, we do have...
Have we got the skull?
The replica skull here.
Can I have a
So
look?
do you want to... Yeah, I've got it on here with all the other bits here.
Yeah, okay.
So,
Can I pick it up?
yeah, yeah. It's in really good condition and it's
Oh,
really
it's
robust.
light,
Yeah,
okay.
and it's really light. But don't you think that looks just like a dragon?
It just looks exactly
Yeah.
like what you imagine a
I
dragon looks like. It's
know,
so cool.
I know.
But Lorraine has discovered a problem with the replica skeleton.
What's happened here, though?
Well, I was hoping we could put it together today so that we could show you, but unfortunately, it's travelled across from the US, and so some of the pieces were damaged. The one thing a conservator fears is undoing that crate and something is broken. And in this case, we found pieces of the dinosaur lying at the bottom, and so there's a sort of intake of breath and like, OK, let's have a look and see how much damage we've got. And so we've got ribs completely broken off, whole pieces broken off entirely. I've got some more pieces over on the table. So we will be able to repair it, but will take 4 or 5 days, which we hadn't planned for. We've got to somehow find the time to now repair this beautiful dinosaur so that we can install it.
Richard Sabin has been looking after the museum's whales for 3 decades. But his love of the Natural History Museum stretches back to childhood.
I first remember walking into this hall and seeing this blue whale model as a 10-year-old. It was the first time I'd ever been to London, the first time I'd been to the Natural History Museum, and this was the thing that really blew me away. Standing in front of this model makes me remember how excited I was when I first saw this. One of the things that I really wanted to do when I was 10 years old on that first visit was take a look at the model close up. And of course, now that I work for the museum, that's exactly what I can do. Nobody else, just me.
Richard's childhood visits would spark his lifelong love of whales.
As a 10-year-old, I was all about bones. I wanted to know about skeletons, and seeing the skeleton of the largest animal that's ever lived on the planet was just the most incredible thing. I had to know more. I had no idea that I'd end up working with Hope so closely and in so much detail. And she's really become the pinnacle of my career so far. Who knew? Who knew that was going to happen? That could never be predicted.
After months of research, Richard has made a breakthrough in his investigation into Hope. He's been able to trace where Hope travelled during her life, but then the trail goes cold. It appears that in the last years of her life, she suddenly stopped migrating. Richard has an idea of why this was, and he's just received an extraordinary set of results that confirm his suspicions.
I've just taken a look at the results and processed what's come back, and what we can see very clearly, very, very clearly, and I'm incredibly excited by this, is that we have evidence that Hope had been pregnant full term.
These results show that Hope was pregnant during the last years of her life. With this new information, Richard can now pinpoint exactly when she gave birth.
The graph that I've got here is the data that's come back from the analysis, and smack in the middle of the graph is this huge spike in progesterone, the pregnancy hormone. So we have a birth date for Hope's calf of February 1890 based on these data. This is really quite remarkable. And the really wonderful thing for me is that if her calf lived its full lifespan, that means it would have been swimming around in our waters around about 1970 or so. If that calf, in turn, had had offspring, maybe, just maybe, Hope's grandchildren are swimming around still in the ocean today, following that same migration route.
Records show that a year later she became stranded and died on a sandbank as she journeyed past Wexford Harbour on the Irish coast. Richard still has an important question that needs answering.
So one of the mysteries, which is still pretty much an open question, is why Hope died, why she beached in Wexford Harbour. I really need to do a bit more thinking about what I still believe to be the last open question, which is, why did she beach? How did she manage to strand such a powerful animal? Maybe these data can give me a little bit of insight.
Coming up, the museum's new dinosaur refuses to take shape.
This is like a giant Meccano set that's full of very fragile pieces that you're trying to put together.
And Hope's last secret.
There's a mystery still to be addressed, and it's the final mystery.
The deadline is looming for the Natural History Museum's upcoming exhibition. With a broken replica dinosaur on her hands, Head of Conservation Lorraine Cornish is having to work round the clock to assemble its complex skeleton.
The clock is ticking and we have a schedule planned, and now this is an additional piece of work that we've got to do. So any bits of spare time that we thought we had, we don't have anymore, and we're doing this. This whole rib cage section here had actually broken along quite a few of those lines. So what I'm doing is just that bit of in-painting so that you cannot see where that break happened. This has taken up quite a lot of time, and I'm going to nickname it a little bit of a diva dinosaur, to be honest, in terms of the attention it's demanding from us. But, you know, it's worth it, absolutely worth it.
With the repairs complete, Lorraine can finally try to assemble the Dracorex skeleton.
This is like a giant Meccano set that's full of very fragile pieces that you're trying to put together. So you're literally building a dinosaur. It's getting longer. Yeah, it's nice and long now, isn't it? You feel like you're gradually bringing it to life as you put each piece on. It's just like an enormous jigsaw puzzle, but quite a challenging one. Jigsaw puzzles usually behave a little bit better than this dinosaur is.
Dino expert Susie Maidment is joining Lorraine for its crowning moment.
Hi, Lorraine.
Hi, Susie. How are you?
This looks good. This looks much better than last time I saw it.
So much better, isn't it? You've just caught me pinning the tail on the dinosaur, literally. This is the last bit of tail, so I've got you down here because there's one more piece to put on, Susie.
The skull. So can I do the honours, Lorraine?
You can, Susie. I've saved the best to last for you. It's all quite simple.
Yeah.
That's it. Then put him up a little bit more so he's looking... Yes, exactly.
Well, there we go.
Yeah.
Ooh, there he goes.
Right, we let him go?
Yeah.
Hey.
There he is.
There he is.
Look at that.
Oh, handsome.
Well, this specimen looks fantastic. I can't believe how different it looks from when I saw it. I think it's going to be the star of the show, as it should be as a dinosaur.
So you've got Harry Potter, Wizarding World, dinosaurs, dragons. The whole mix is there, isn't it? The public are going to absolutely love this specimen.
It's been a busy day for duty manager Jack Evans and his team, who are just getting ready to close up.
Attention all front of house radio holders, this is the duty manager. The museum is now closed to the public. Please, can you start clearing the galleries wherever you are? Thank you. Out. gearing up now for closing. I'm just going to sweep the galleries to make sure that there's no one hiding in the kind of strange hiding places in here. You never know what you might find. It's kind of nice, actually, to walk through when there's no one here. Even though it's a bit creepy in some areas, it's nice. You can kind of have some, like, one-to-one time with a donkey. This is probably a good spot to edge people onto the doors. We obviously don't want to force people out the doors, but we've kind of got this gentle lean in and kind of graciously nudge.
Richard Sabin's 18-month investigation into Hope the whale's life story is coming to an end. He's plotted her route across the globe and discovered that in the last years of her life, she gave birth to a calf. But there's one question that still needs answering. What caused this giant blue whale to beach on a sandbank in Wexford Harbour on the Irish coast?
There's a mystery still to be addressed, and it's the final mystery. It's the mystery of why she died, how she died, what were the circumstances.
Richard has finally pieced together the story of Hope's last hours.
It's my feeling that it's probably down to two main factors. The first one being she would have been weakened by the pregnancy and by feeding that calf for all those months, investing all her energy in keeping her calf alive. There's another factor. We know from records that in the days before she appeared on the southeast coast of Ireland, there were terrible storms in the area. And I have a dreadful feeling that Hope may have been caught by those storms, that she may have been pulled into the incredibly tidal waters of Wexford Harbour, into the shallows, and didn't have the strength to break free, had no way to get herself out of that predicament.
Hope died on the morning of the 25th of March, 1891. And remarkably, Richard has uncovered a photograph in an Irish museum that matches the exact date and location of where Hope was found. It shows the blue whale in her final moments.
I've got a photograph here that shows Hope lying on a sandbank in shallow water on her right-hand side with four men standing on top of her body, and she's been released, we believe, from her misery by one of the men who made a harpoon, a homemade harpoon, and plunged it into her body to release her. It really does have quite an impact, and, you know, just, it does bring her to life, really, to have this information. Ultimately, when I stop and think about it, it's quite overpowering. It's quite overwhelming.
Richard has solved the 130-year-old mystery about Hope. And soon, everyone who comes to the museum can discover more about her story.
Even though this is an incredibly sad story, there is a silver lining to all this. People will get to know this story, and I really think it will surprise and inspire them. We've created an incredibly powerful message of hope, and Hope's story is an example of what the Natural History Museum is all about, using our collections to inspire people through science to look after, protect, and conserve the natural world.
From whale skeletons to robot dinosaurs, the Natural History Museum's 28 galleries are crammed full of priceless showstoppers. Some of the biggest draws take centre stage in the spectacular main hall. But with the grime of central London just outside the door, Head of Conservation Lorraine Cornish is on constant alert for pollution damage to these precious pieces.
Very busy day today. There's a lot going on. This is the uniform for most conservators, high-vis jacket and a hard hat.
Today, Lorraine and a crack team of specialists are descending on these prized exhibits.
We've got a small army in this morning. We're checking the specimens and we're cleaning them. The clock's ticking and we've just got a limited amount of time to get it done, really. So at the entrance to the museum, one of the first things that people see when they come in is these two amazing giraffes, over 100 years old. So these giraffes are right near the doors. There's a 6-lane road outside, a lot of traffic, public coming through. The doors are often open, and so we get dust just coming in. And one of the things we're looking at is there's any split in the skin, is it drying out or anything. We check those seams, check that everything is as it should be.
I'm just cleaning the glass eye with some ethanol. It's going to be the cleanest eyeball ever. This is American Mastodon. It's an amazing specimen. It's at least 10,000 years old.
Some of these things are absolutely enormous, and we just need to get on with it.
The museum holds one of the greatest dinosaur collections in the world, and it's looked after by a team of experts, including Susie Maidment.
Here at the Natural History Museum's dinosaur collection, we have the world's most complete Stegosaurus, the first T-Rex ever found, and the first dinosaur fossils to be recognised as such. And that's just scratching the surface. Down here in the basement, we have hundreds of different types of dinosaur fossils from all over the world.
With its world-class reputation, the museum is the first stop for any member of the public who thinks they've made a new dino discovery. Today, Susie and her colleague, Paul Barrett, have had a promising tip-off. Someone has sent in photos of what they think could be a series of dino footprints, known as a trackway, in Wales.
This is someone who thinks they might have found a dinosaur trackway on the coast just outside Cardiff. I have to say, these are some of the more convincing footprint photos we've been sent.
They're pretty good, aren't they? Look at this one. Visitors send us photos of what they think might be dinosaur tracks all the time. And very often, they're just random holes in rock. They don't look like trackways at all. Do you think those are toe prints? They always look like toe imprints.
That is a convincing set of toe prints for a hand.
Yeah.
Rather than the foot. And then there's this huge kind of dustbin lid shaped thing here. And I wondered if we were looking at a hand-foot pair.
Yeah. It's difficult to think how that could form if it wasn't a footprint, to be honest.
New dinosaur finds are rare in the British Isles. And Susie and Paul are so hopeful that these could be dino footprints that they've decided to go to Wales and check them out for themselves.
Members of the public send us lots of inquiries about things that they found. Sometimes those are genuine dinosaur footprints, but it's pretty rare. Most of the time it's something else. But these are some of the best ones that we've been sent and some of the most convincing.
Coming up, Susie and Paul arrive in Wales and the plot thickens.
Footprints are tricky things to get a handle on, but there are an awful lot of them around here.
And we meet the most famous dinosaur of all time.
When you're over 100, life can be pretty tough on the road.
Since opening its doors 140 years ago, the Natural History Museum's main hall has been a stage for the biggest crowd pleasers of the day, including today's main attraction, Hope the Blue Whale. Tonight, Head of Conservation Lorraine Cornish has been looking back at the headline exhibits from the past.
People will possibly think that Hope's always been here, where she only came in 2017. And the museum opened in 1881. So I've gone back into the archives and I've got a great picture here showing George, an elephant. I think George came to the museum in 1907 and he looks magnificent, absolutely magnificent. I'm thinking around here would be where the photographer would have taken the picture of a sperm whale that was on display from 1895.
But the most popular attraction in the history of the museum is Dippy the dinosaur.
Dippy's definitely the most famous dinosaur in the country and globally. Dippy came to the museum in 1905 and has been around a bit, it has to be said, and started off in a reptile gallery just to one side of here. And we've got people in lab coats here. We've got people just casually sitting on the base. They're essentially putting Dippy together. Then this would have been the public opening in the reptile gallery. Back in 1905, when Dippy was unveiled to the public, the opening was a must-have ticket. So you had some crown heads of Europe, a bit of royalty, some VVIPs coming to the unveiling of this colossal dinosaur that was truly amazing. And the press even went mad for Dippy. Instant rock star status and really cemented the museums, you know, as the place to visit.
Dippy is a diplodocus who dominated the main hall from 1979 until 2017. Since then, he's been on a tour across the UK. As one of the museum's most prized showpieces, Lorraine is responsible for making sure nothing happens to him. And now Dippy's due a checkup.
Dippy's been very busy on a kind of an extended tour. I mean, literally, there is a T-shirt. When you're over 100 and you're made of plaster, life can be pretty tough on the road. So I have to go and check to make sure that everything's as it should be. And it's not showing his age, essentially.
For many visitors, the giant specimens are the museum's biggest draw. But for fly expert Erica McAllister, small is beautiful.
We have many hidden treasures, and this is my hidden treasure because it is really in the corner of this entire building, and yet there is so much going on in just one little specimen on display. This is a grasshopper eating a mouse. It's very personal to me because it was one of the things that first sat on my desk when I joined the museum quite a few years ago. And I loved it because it was so weird. And we did a little bit of research into it, and it's found by Reverend so-and-so, who passed it on to Reverend so-and-so, who passed it on to someone, who passed it on to us. Because obviously we want a grasshopper eating a mouse. But you can see the ear of the mouse is being properly nibbled.
Another of Erica's favourites is part of a bizarre story about the museum building.
This is a really terrible looking specimen of a cat. It's desiccated, it's mummified, which some people might find quite ugh, but I think it's fascinating. And it was found buried in the front steps of the entrance to the Natural History Museum. We believe it's one of these superstitious cats, buried in the 1870s, a warder of bad spirits, and also to get rid of all vermin in the building. And I love the fact that this is a building dedicated to science, and still its roots are very much superstitious.
The Natural History Museum's dinosaur experts Susie Maidment and Paul Barrett have had a promising tip-off about dino footprints. Now they've arrived in Wales to see them for themselves.
There's some rock ledges over there, maybe?
Yeah, quite a lot of exposed rock up there.
If they turn out to be genuine, they could be an exciting find.
They're pretty big. Right,
They are.
But first, they need to get a proper look.
First thing we've got to do while we're here is actually work out if these are tracks for sure or whether there's some kind of other geological feature. But one of the things that makes me slightly suspicious that they could be tracks is they have this raised rim of rock around these crater-like structures, which could potentially be these footprints. But what we really need to do is get some of them nice and clean so we can have a look at the edges properly to see if there's evidence of things like toes that might help us really nail that down.
It would be really good if we can remove some of this sand, which is going to involve quite a lot of sweeping, I think. Kind of like making sandcastles, actually.
Dinosaur footprints can often just look like holes in the rock. And even for experts like Susie and Paul, it's still hard to work out whether these are dino prints. They need to find clear proof that a dinosaur may have once walked here.
I can't see anything in this one that looks particularly like a definite finger or a toe impression, but they're very deep. They get quite filled up with all of the sand that's covering the beach. But there are an awful lot of them around here. Footprints are tricky things to get a handle on. What you really want is something that's perfect with lots of fingers and lots of toes showing. At the moment, I'm thinking I don't know what these things are.
It is hard work, yeah. And there's not really a shortcut to it either. There's no technology we can use that makes this easier. So we just have to stick with this.
Susie and Paul will need to excavate more ground if they're going to find the crucial evidence they need to get to the bottom of this dino mystery. As a housekeeping supervisor at the museum, Debbie Marler gets privileged access to the world-famous exhibits.
It's just not your normal, everyday 9-to-5 job, is it? I get to see other things that public don't get to see, and actually really close up as well. I'm touching really old objects. And they've got to be priceless, really. It's not like you can just go down the shops and buy one. This is the dinosaur nest. All the kids must love this one, because I do. Look at them, they're just cute little dinosaurs coming out of their eggs. I'd say these are my most favourite in the whole museum, because they just look so innocent. This is Harry. He's in his bed. He's got his little blanket around him. This is Billy. And Susie's just, no way, you're not coming out. I've got 6 children, and I would say these are so much easier to look after.
The Natural History Museum is on a site the size of 8 football pitches in upmarket South Kensington. But what lots of visitors don't realise is that tucked between the central building and the busy main road, the museum has its very own 2-acre garden, crammed full of British wildlife.
Morning.
Today, Tom McCarter and Sylvia Myers, who are part of the team who run the wildlife garden,
Morning, sheep.
are welcoming some new additions to entertain the tourists.
How you doing? Bracken is 5 years old and Ivy is 3. And they're both grey-faced Dartmoor sheep. They come here for 6 to 8 weeks.
You want some sheep nuts? Mmm. Yum, yum.
They really love the sheep nuts, so if we want them to come with us, it's quite a useful tool. In fact, they love them so much, I believe they know the word sheep nuts. Come on. It's a lovely thing to have in your job description. You get to be a farmer for 6 to 8 weeks every year. Bracken! Come on.
Herding sheep is harder than it looks.
Come on. If you try and direct a sheep, they will quite often bolt and go the other direction. Do you want to try and get behind them? Come on. They have their own minds and they like to wander around the gardens as they see fit. Come on. Hey, girls. Come on, girls. Hey.
They do really like this bit. If they don't come here in the morning, they sometimes get a little bit grumpy.
That was trickier than I thought.
With Ivy and Bracken safely in their new pasture, they're ready for the public. Coming up, the secrets of ancient Brits revealed.
To have a skeleton from someone who died 10,000 years ago is just so incredibly rare.
And we meet the most famous dinosaur of all time.
Dippy mania has taken over.
The world's most famous dinosaur, Dippy, is on a blockbuster tour around the UK. As one of the Natural History Museum's most prized possessions, it's vital nothing happens to him. So today, Head of Conservation Lorraine Cornish has come to check up on him.
I'm really excited to be going in and seeing Dippy. It will be like seeing a long-lost friend.
After nearly 3 years on the move, Lorraine needs to make sure he's not damaged after being taken apart and put back together so many times.
Hi, Janet. How are you doing?
15 feet high and longer than 2 double-decker buses, Dippy can only just about squeeze into Rochdale's huge public library.
The whole town has been experiencing the Dippy effect, basically.
Dippy mania has taken over.
Dippy mania, totally. We've even had dino breakfasts at one of the local hostelries.
Really?
I've even got my Dippy badge on. There he is.
He seems to get bigger every time I see him, though. It's so funny. When you haven't seen him for a long time, then you come back and go, he is huge.
Life on the move could easily damage a dinosaur of this size and structure.
We have a very large join here where the legs come together and they're bolted. So we always like to have a look here just to see if everything's as it should be.
Dippy is now over 100 years old, and time has taken its toll.
He's quite delicate. He looks quite robust, doesn't he? He looks like he's pretty solid, but that plaster is from 1905. It's quite fragile. It could snap. There are some tiny cracks just because it's so old. And so we have to be very respectful of this skeleton when we put it together and don't assume anything.
And clearing away the dust isn't just to make Dippy look good for his fans.
2 bits of equipment the trusty conservator will have, and that is a handy brush, which helps to sometimes dislodge those tricky bits of dust that actually will fall on the specimen. And then, this is a bit of a trick up our sleeve, a cosmetic sponge. Don't just use it for your face, you know. Dust isn't great on objects over time. It's hygroscopic, so it kind of absorbs water, can sometimes become acidic. It's just not a great thing if you're looking after a skeleton.
After a day of close inspection, Lorraine's happy that he is structurally sound and ready for his public.
Lots of people think that this is a real skeleton, but the original is actually in America. And this was the first copy that was ever made and then was gifted to London at the request of King Edward VII. And at the time, it was the biggest, most complete dinosaur to go on display anywhere in the world. So it caused an absolute media sensation. Everyone was absolutely amazed at this colossal stranger, as it was called. Everything's as it should be, which is what we want.
Dippy's been fascinating the crowds for over a century, and today's no exception.
How does it wee? How does it wee and poop?
That's a really good question. It's a bit like how you poo and wee. There's a part of the dinosaur's body back here where the poo and the wee would come out. No one ever tires of seeing Dippy, and I think it doesn't matter how many times. And that's magical, isn't it?
Alongside dinosaurs, plants and stuffed animals, the Natural History Museum is home to hundreds of human remains from the last 10,000 years. The most famous exhibit is the oldest and most complete human skeleton ever found in Britain, Cheddar Man. Ancient DNA expert Selina Brace and her team have spent the past 3 years unlocking the secrets of his remarkable prehistoric bones.
Cheddar Man is called Cheddar Man because he was found in Cheddar Gorge in Somerset. To have an almost complete skeleton from someone who died 10,000 years ago is just so incredibly rare, it's amazing. And we can tell so much looking at him, from his skeleton, about the way he lived, who he was.
Cheddar Man was alive over 4,000 years before the ancient Egyptians built the pyramids. But using cutting-edge techniques, Selina has been able to discover how he lived.
Cheddar Man's lifestyle would have been that of a hunter-gatherer. He would have eaten off the land, he would have eaten roots and berries, but he would have hunted wild animals.
Examining his 10,000-year-old DNA was a delicate process.
When we sampled Cheddar Man for DNA, it was a very scary day. We took the skull and we turned this upside down and we took a very small amount of bone powder from his inner ear.
Ancient DNA testing often yields no results at all. But with Cheddar Man, the team struck gold. And what they discovered was extraordinary. From his DNA and skeleton, they were able to create an accurate image of what prehistoric Britons looked like. And it wasn't what most people expected.
This is a reconstruction of Cheddar Man's face. From the DNA, we were able to say that he has dark hair, blue eyes, and dark skin pigmentation, which today looks really unusual. But what we think and what we know from other human remains is that, in fact, most people in Britain during this time point, 10,000 years ago, would have had this really interesting combination of features.
Tucked away in the same cave as Cheddar Man was another collection of human skeletons that still need investigation.
Cheddar Man was found on his own in the cave, but in a different part of the cave, there are a lot more bones. And these are from individuals much, much older. And these we are only just starting to look at.
Selina is now hoping further examination will reveal what secrets these bones could be hiding. Head of Conservation Lorraine Cornish is back at the museum and has one more stuffed animal to check over. It's her personal favourite.
Hi, Guy.
Guy, the gorilla.
I certainly have objects in the museum where I looked after them for a long time, and I am attached to them for sure.
Guy is so treasured and so popular that he has his own protective glass case in a dedicated corner of the museum's main hall.
You have to be a little bit agile getting in, which is not a great look. I think the phrase, "does my bum look big in this?" comes to mind. Ooh, so I don't damage anything. Oh! He's handsome, isn't he, don't you think? When you're in the case, you can get to most of him, actually. What we're doing is we're looking at any splits. You can also look at the fur to see if there's no insect movement or anything. See how he's doing.
Lorraine's bond with Guy goes back to when she was a girl.
It's even more special for me sitting here with him now, because I remember seeing him when he was alive at London Zoo as a young child, and I thought he was amazing then. He came to London Zoo as a baby, and he arrived on Guy Fawkes Night in 1947. And I think he was afraid of all of the noise of the fireworks and everything. The story goes that he wouldn't settle until one of the keepers would actually stay over with him. And so he got the nickname Guy. All the public adored him, and they would then give him treats, but sadly that was sort of sweets and cakes and things, very bad for your teeth. So his teeth were rotting, so he had to have an operation, and sadly, while he was under, he had a heart attack and died. And then he was at London Zoo from 1947 until he died in 1978. And then eventually his body was donated to the Natural History Museum. Even now, people will come into the museum, they'll ask about the dinosaurs, they'll ask about Guy. Looking good. Dead leg. Ooh. So we probably won't check him for another year now. and so we can close the door up.
Dinosaur experts Susie Maidment and Paul Barrett are investigating traces of possible dino footprints on a beach in South Wales. Dino prints are rare, and identifying them requires evidence of finger and toe imprints. But after hours of careful searching, Susie and Paul are no closer to uncovering the vital proof they need.
I'm still sad that we can't see any toe claws or really distinct shapes of feet. Maybe it could have been a claw mark or a toe, but I wouldn't want to bet my life on it.
To help them get to the bottom of things, they've called in backup. Peter Falkingham is a specialist in analysing prehistoric footprints.
So this is what we come to see, and we're really intrigued as to hear what you're going to make of it.
I think this is more exciting than I was expecting. It's more extensive, it covers a larger area than I thought it would, and just the raised areas around them are very, very prominent. I'm excited.
After several more hours of clearing sand, fresh evidence seems to be emerging.
We do seem to have these depressions in the sides coming up that could be left behind by toes.
So that's a long neck, long tail dinosaur, foot, and then hand there. And we just see them quite close to each other. Ooh, it's quite the stretch.
Susie is becoming convinced the potential footprints match the strides of a large dinosaur.
They're so regular, they're so evenly spaced. I just can't believe that's a natural feature. You can predict where the next one's going to be. I reckon there's going to be one here, right? And there is.
But now Peter is not so sure.
The tracks are too indistinct to say, even at a big level. It's very, very hard to say if this is a sauropod or an ornithopod or a theropod. My inclination would be something four-legged, something largish. Whether they are or not, I don't know at the moment.
For the team to be certain, Peter is going to create a 3D model of the footprints, which Paul and Susie will then analyse back at the museum.
Pete takes lots and lots of pictures of the same footprint from different angles. Then we can take all those photographs and using kind of some really cool software, we can build 3D models of each of those prints.
The 3D model should confirm once and for all whether these are dinosaur footprints or not. Erica McAllister is one of the curators who looks after the museum's enormous fly and flea collection. She's part of the museum's ambitious mission to photograph every one of their 80 million specimens so that anyone in the world can see them. Today, she's set her sights on some of the most bizarre.
So these are exceptionally fragile and exceptionally delicate. We really never take this lid off, but I'm going to take it off to do this imaging.
The dressed fleas.
These were made by the nuns in Mexico, which is great. So what they would do, they'd put the fleas in there, make little outfits, and then the fleas would be the heads.
The strange art of dressing real fleas in costumes began in 19th century Mexico.
This is a wedding being serenaded by a mariachi band. So these bands are very popular in Mexico. And these have been made by, we believe, nuns, and then be bought as tourist trinkets. You know, who doesn't want like a dressed flea? And look, where's the lady? And she's not looking her best, really, is she? She's got a bouquet. So we've definitely got a bride and groom, and we've either got a bridesmaid and best man, and then either side of the wedding party, you've got this little mariachi band, and you've got a guitarist and one with a castanet. They've all got the most fabulously large hats. How on earth she made these hats, I don't know. But that's the level of detail I like. OK, that's really cute. I might have to take some photos of actually that. As a child, it's not something you imagine being paid to photograph a flea that's been dressed as a bride. Can you imagine your career guidance counsellor? What do you want to do? I want to image fleas. I want to image fleas like nobody's imaged fleas before.
These photographs will now form part of an enormous digital archive project, recording every single item the museum owns. One of the museum's biggest crowd pullers is Sophie the Stegosaurus. With almost all of her skeleton intact, Sophie is the world's most complete example of the famous dinosaur. But she's so unique that the most precious part of her is kept under lock and key, her skull. While she waits for news about the dino footprints, Susie Maidment is taking a rare look at Sophie's 150-million-year-old skull.
Although they're very iconic as dinosaurs, there are really few skulls of stegosaurs that are intact from anywhere in the world. There's no more than 5. And Sophie's is absolutely unique in that all the bones are separate from each other. They're not all fused together. And that, for us, is kind of the Holy Grail.
The separate skull bones means Susie has been able to discover more about this incredible dinosaur than ever before.
We were able to do loads of study on the specimen, and we discovered that Sophie weighed about 1.5 to 2 tons, which is something like a white rhino. The question I get asked the most about Stegosaurus is what was the function of their armour that they had down the back, the plates and the spikes at the end of the tail. Now, the spikes were probably used as a weapon. The plates, it's a bit harder to say. They're very, very, very thin, and while some people have suggested that they could have been armour plating, I think if you were something like Allosaurus with a big bone-crunching bite, chomping through Stegosaurus plates would probably be like eating a pack of Pringles. What we've got here is the brain case. This is actually the back of Sophie's skull. Now, Stegosaurus's brain is sometimes compared to the size of a plum. I think Sophie's might have been a little bit smaller than that. Now, while there's not a direct relationship between brain size and intelligence, Sophie did have a very small brain for her body weight, and so I suspect that this dinosaur was not very clever.
Coming up, a gruesome secret is uncovered.
So this is definitely cannibalistic behaviour.
And after the great dinosaur hunt, the results are in.
Slightly blows your mind, doesn't it?
At the Natural History Museum, Selina Brace has been examining a set of ancient human bones. These 15,000-year-old human remains are among the oldest of their kind ever found in Britain. And they were discovered in the same cave as the skeleton of Cheddar Man. PhD student William Marsh has been studying them and has some gruesome news.
We've got 4 ribs here, all of them showing signs of human cannibalism. And this one, it is
that's
unmistakable.
amazing.
There are bite marks on these rib bones that can only have been made by human teeth.
3 tooth marks. 1, 2, 3. So these teeth marks must be from a human.
Yeah, I think so. Because you can see there's evidence also of cut marks slightly down here, which is evidence that...
Where they defleshed?
Where they defleshed it.
Yeah,
Taking
absolutely.
The flesh off, and then the human teeth marks.
The other body parts tell an even more horrifying story. A skull has been turned into a drinking vessel.
We've got a skull cup, which shows signs of cut marks.
So rather than being like brutally smashed or very quickly broken apart to remove the brain, what they've actually done is very carefully cut away, defleshed round the outside to create this beautiful cup that you see here. So that together, if we had that up round there, would be the whole of the drinking vessel. This would be the drinking cup.
For Selina and William, the next step is to work out why humans were carving skulls and eating each other 15,000 years ago in Britain.
So this is definitely cannibalistic behaviour. So there are many reasons that you can have cannibals and that people would eat human flesh. One is that they were very hungry. Maybe this was a time when there wasn't much food. It could be that they were eating their enemies to prove they were stronger than they were. Or it could be much more about honouring the dead. So ritually eating members of your family as a way to show that you cared. As bizarre as this may sound.
With many questions about these prehistoric cannibals left to answer, Selina's research will continue. In a hidden corner of the museum, marine expert Miranda Lowe is responsible for some of the most delicate items in the entire building. 150-year-old replicas of sea creatures made from paper-thin glass.
Every time I handle these, I take a sharp intake of breath. You can see how fragile it is. A glass jellyfish that was actually made in the 1870s.
The museum has a new exhibition coming up, and Miranda has been asked to select just one of these models for public display.
It's really hard to just choose one item for exhibition because we have over 180 of them. This is a form of moon jellyfish. The glass here is 1/10 of a millimetre. So thin, so fragile. This is one of my most favourite objects. Beautiful glass octopus. You can see so much detail.
These painstakingly accurate models once offered a glimpse into a mysterious underwater world.
So when these things were made, these glass marine sea creatures were there to inspire people about the world's oceans. This kind of object brought to the public what you might actually see. This is a bit like unwrapping your best birthday present.
But as much as she loves them all, Miranda can only choose one for the exhibition.
Amazing.
Or can she?
I can't just choose one, so I'm going to see if I can have two. I'd love this one to go in, and then I'd love this other one over here. I think I've got my final selection, and people are going to love them.
Dinosaur experts Susie Maidment and Paul Barrett have just received a digital model of the possible dino trackways they saw on a beach in Wales. These images have revealed details that were invisible to the naked eye.
It just looks so clear.
It does. It really gives a much clearer view than when you're on the beach.
That's true, actually. There's no water in the tracks here, are they? Which really helps to see it, because on the beach, it's quite difficult to see.
After a thorough examination, Susie and Paul finally see the evidence they were looking for. Proof of finger and toe marks.
That one looks like it's got toes.
It looks like a toe.
And it has this big raised rim of mud at the back of the print, which has been caused by the heel of the hand, really pushing into that soft mud. And as you say, these could be claw marks, and these animals would have had really big, chunky claws on their fingers.
With these images, and what they saw on the beach, Susie and Paul now feel confident that they've made an exciting new discovery.
They're so much like footprints. They're so regular, and they've got these raised rims that just look like what you get when a foot impacts into mud.
Not only can Susie and Paul now see these dinosaur prints clearly, they also think they know what type of dino they belong to. An early sauropod, the largest land animal that ever lived. One of its relatives sits in the Natural History Museum today.
I think it was probably made by an early relative of this sort of dinosaur here, but an earlier member of this group. And some of the shapes that we see in these footprints here are really so similar. I actually think it's kind of amazing that something like that would have been wandering around what is now a beach in South Wales 210 million years ago.
No, it's quite stunning.
It slightly blows your mind, doesn't it?
The Natural History Museum is one of Britain's top attractions. Every year, millions of visitors flood in to get up close to the giant skeletons and exotic creatures that fill this world-famous site. But of the thousands of extraordinary exhibits, by far the biggest draw are the dinosaurs. From prehistoric bones to man-made models. If something goes wrong in this gallery, it's a big problem. And today, it has. The most popular dino of them all, the robot T-Rex, has developed a fault and needs urgent attention.
We want to get the tail off and have a look at this cylinder in here that we think's squeaking. We've not come across this before.
Technicians Glenn and Alex have been called in to try and fix T-Rex's tail, which is making a worrying rattling noise.
Need to give it a little squirt.
It's not the first time T-Rex has gone wrong. 6 months ago, there was a problem with his head.
T-Rex was shaking his head violently. It was completely out of control. The body was shaking, and it was head-banging. For young kids, this is terrifying. Yeah, pretty dramatic. He kept that up for the best part of an afternoon before somebody told us about it. Because this thing weighs a couple of tons, it caused a little bit of damage elsewhere.
Until Glenn and Alex can get to the bottom of the rattle, T-Rex is off limits.
Let's get the tail down, which is the position we've got it in now, and we'll slip the rubber off. Okay, going to slide it off. Okay? It brings a lot of pleasure to a lot of people and terrifies them. Children come around this corner and are terrified, they scream. It's great for that.
When the T-Rex isn't working, we get lots of bad press from the parents and lots of crying children.
Mind your head, Glenn.
With T-Rex turned off whilst they figure out what's gone wrong, they take the chance to give him a top-to-toe MOT.
The eyes are looking okay. It's mainly the eyelids that wear out, more than the eyes.
His giant jaws make him a target.
Kids that come here use the T-Rex as target practice. We find all kinds of things. Pencils, sandwiches, crisps, M&Ms, you name it. They try and get it in his mouth. No foreign objects this time. We're good.
Aha. That's what's wrong.
Finally, they discover the source of the rattling, and it's not good news.
Part of the catch that holds the tail on has snapped. It could cause another problem along the line.
Once that happens, that's when we lose control of the robot.
T-Rex will now be out of action until Glenn and Alex have fixed him, and they're sure he's not a risk to the public. But they'll need to get their skates on. While robot T-Rex awaits urgent repairs, deep in the basement, there's the real thing. Remarkably, the museum holds the skeleton of the first T-Rex ever discovered. But dino expert Susie Maidment has a problem. The huge bones of this 66-million-year-old T-Rex have been muddled up with another T-Rex. Today, Susie is setting out to solve this giant jigsaw puzzle.
At the moment, I don't know which bone goes with which skeleton, so that's what I'm going to try and figure out today. It might be a bit surprising that all of these bones are jumbled up. We have so many dinosaur specimens in the museum to look after. And up until now, this specimen hasn't really been the focus of any attention. So I'm hoping to correct that today.
These T-Rex bones were dug up in Wyoming in Midwest America over 100 years ago.
They're incredibly historically important specimens, so it's pretty amazing to be getting them out and handling them today. Wow, they're heavy too. This is a metatarsal, which is a foot bone. It's the one that footballers always break. It's pretty long. That was the height of T-Rex's foot without its toes.
But there's something else mixed up with the bones.
That's plastic T-Rex. These specimens were mounted in the dinosaur gallery for a really, really long time. And the missing bits that we didn't have of the skeleton were filled in with plastic like this. So I think we can probably get rid of these now. This looks like it could be quite fragile. This is a big back rib. So it's broken at the end here. It would have continued on and tapered down to nothing. The ribs can be really, really fragile because they're so narrow and they've been around for 66 million years. So they can just collapse under their own weight. So sometimes you have to be super careful with them. This is the lower jaw. Oh, there we go, look at those. Massive teeth. It's these teeth and this jaw that give the T-Rex its fearsome reputation. Can you see these stake-like knife serrations that would have allowed the T-Rex to cut through flesh? The idea of being chased and eaten by a T-Rex, oh, it's terrifying. It had a bone-crushing bite, and these massive teeth would have chomped through most of the other things that were alive at the time.
3 hours later, and 66 million years after they were alive, Susie has sorted one T-Rex from another.
This is maybe a half of a T-Rex that we have here, all of the neck and the back. Haven't got much of the tail by the looks of things, but its bones are in pretty good nick. I actually really enjoy having a good tidy up of the collections. I don't like mess. I have a very clean house. I like to have a very clean collection as well.
Coming up, we discover the museum's gruesome underwater world.
This is the tentacle of a colossal squid.
And the most daring mission the museum's ever undertaken.
No one's ever done a project like this before.
The Natural History Museum is home to giants of nature that are millions of years old. But behind the scenes, experts are busy on cutting-edge projects for the future. Lyndall Pereira is working on one of the most ambitious missions the museum has ever been involved in. Called the Darwin Tree of Life Project, its aim is simple but staggering: to collect and store samples of every one of the 60,000 species of plant, animal and insect that's alive in the British Isles today.
So what we're trying to do with this project is get a tissue sample from every single species in Britain. 200 years ago, they had to collect the entire organism and store them in museums like this. And now, we can learn so much from such a tiny sample.
Here, in one of the most high-tech parts of the museum, is a tank of liquid nitrogen, where the samples will be stored at -200 degrees.
This tank can fit 60,000 of these tubes. So there's enough space to fit one sample for every species that you can find in Britain. We're taking the DNA from these organisms that will stay in here safely for the next 300 years at least. And we can learn so much from them. David Attenborough himself has put a sample into this very tank. Stood on that step. Touched this handle.
This tank is a Noah's Ark for the 21st century, with its samples of every living thing in Britain. It's going to take at least another 10 years to fill, but it's a race against the clock.
We're losing species at a faster rate than we can even discover them. So we need to find them and learn as much as we can about them if we have any hopes of saving them in the future. No one's ever done a project like this before. It's going to be a big challenge. We have about 1,000 species in this tank so far, so we have 59,000 still to go.
Before the visitors arrive for the day, housekeeping supervisor Debbie Marler gets to spend a little extra time with some of her favourite displays.
As a cleaner, you get to see a lot more what the public don't see because you've got no distractions. You can actually stop and look at everything in detail. So this is a case of hummingbirds, and there's more than 100 birds in here.
These birds are from South America, and each is a tiny treasure.
I love this case. They just look like little diamonds sparkling. It's amazing. They're tiny little birds that can give off so much colour. Their beaks are so thin, they're like tiny little sewing needles. There's no way you can get bored at looking at all of this stuff. Every time you look at it, you find something different. It's like watching a movie. I'd spend a lot more time cleaning this case than a lot of other things.
In the far corner of the museum, there's an area where only those with the strongest of stomachs will venture. John Ablett is one of those in charge of this mysterious world.
This next room holds some of the most amazing, bizarre-looking creatures that you've ever seen. Some of these animals you might not even realise are actually real animals. And we call this part of the museum the tank room.
This vast room is filled with rarely seen creatures from the deep, all perfectly preserved.
This is the tentacle of a colossal squid, what we believe is the largest species of squid. They've never found a fully grown colossal squid, only juvenile ones, but we think they reach up to about 18 metres, and this one came from the stomach of a sperm whale, one of the few animals that's big enough to eat it. One of the amazing things is these hooked suckers that they have, and these are used for grabbing onto their prey. These actually turn and screw into the flesh of anything that it catches to stop them from getting away.
Today, John's preparing some cuttlefish for a new exhibition about fantastic beasts. He needs to work fast while they're still fresh.
One of the amazing things about alcohol preserved collections is the fact you've got the whole animal. You could cut this open and see what it had eaten just before it died. You could investigate it for parasites. There are so many more things that you can do, which is why they really are truly amazing specimens. These came from Cornwall. They came up this morning. So we're going to start with this one, because it's probably the most complete and the nicest condition. Going to arrange it into the pose we want it to stay in, because the fixing preservation will kind of harden up the tissues, make it less flexible.
Handling the special preservatives is dangerous work.
This chemical, formalin, just stops the rotting process. There's a few frozen patches, so it's a little tricky to get the syringe in, but just need to get enough of the chemical in to fix it from the inside as well as the outside. It stops it from degrading, and hopefully the specimen will last hundreds of years.
Next, the cuttlefish will be immersed in a tank of formalin so that it's preserved inside and out. And in 10 days, it'll be ready to go on display. The most prized specimen in this undersea world is the biggest and strangest of all.
This is Archie, giant squid. I have quite a big personal attachment to this specimen. She's about 8.62 metres in length, and it came to the museum in 2004 when it was caught by some fishermen off the coast of the Falkland Islands. They pulled up their nets, found this amazing creature. Archie is a girl. It's quite easy to sex a giant squid because they're one of few squids to have external penises in the case of a male. And for a male giant squid, the penis would be about 1 metre in length, so no metre-length penis, definitely a girl.
This complete giant squid, almost the length of a double-decker bus, is one of the few anywhere in the world. It took 20 people to prepare this specimen, and it's now one of the museum's biggest attractions.
It's incredibly rare to get a complete giant squid. You can see it has an eye on either side, and it has the second largest eye of any living creature. And you can see in this specimen, they have some very, very large suckers. And this is what they use for grabbing onto prey, pulling it back so they can hold it and eat it.
This is the closest that most visitors will ever get to a deep-sea giant.
People relate them to these monsters of the deep, you know, the kind of stories of these grabbing sailors pulling boats down to their depth. And just to have a glimpse at this huge animal that, until relatively recently, people didn't know was actually a real animal is really, truly amazing.
In the heart of the English countryside, Hever Castle in Kent was once home to Anne Boleyn, the second wife of Henry VIII. This morning, it's part of the most ambitious project the museum's ever been involved in, to collect every one of the 60,000 species alive in the British Isles today. A dozen museum experts have arrived at dawn, ready to collect and record rare species living in the grounds, starting with the castle's creepy crawlies.
So, we're looking for old trees. That one looks good.
Beetle expert Max Barkley is on the hunt for ancient bugs, and he's using some old-fashioned methods to get them.
I'm beating this oak tree because oak trees support probably more species of insect than any other species of British tree. There's about 15 or 20 different species of insect on this beating tray, so where did that go? The little flea beetle there. Some of these trees are at least a couple of 100 years old, and there's probably been a kitchen garden here since the castle was built, so there will have been a succession of trees, and the beetles associated with the trees would have passed down from generation to generation, so they will be able to trace their lineage back to the Tudors. People ask me whether I have much time for people who don't like insects, but I don't really know any people that don't like insects.
But while Max is beating trees, some of the team are still struggling to get started.
You've got to pull it out. It should just come. No, it doesn't.
First challenge of the day.
There we go.
How are we going to manage the trestle tables? It's the next challenge.
Project leader Lyndall Pereira will make sure all the specimens collected today are identified and recorded on site. That's if they can get the kit working.
Do we have power? Yes, we do. Here we go. Station's ready.
These samples must be flash frozen so they can be rushed back to the museum for DNA analysis and permanent storage. But that means getting their field equipment to sub-zero temperatures.
This is dry ice. This is where the specimens will come. This is like the flash freezing point in here. And it's, yeah, -80, so super cold.
Today, the team are searching for the smallest creatures to be found in the castle grounds, because they're the most important.
The big animals are wonderful and charismatic, but in terms of what they actually do for us as humans, I don't think it can compare to what insects do.
For the team, any changes to these small creatures could mean big trouble ahead.
Insects are like the canary in the coal mine. They warn us of environmental change. And when insect populations start to change, we should take notice, because sooner or later those changes will go on and affect other animals like ourselves.
The team are hoping to catch as many new specimens as they can. For the day to be a success, they need to find specimens that haven't yet been stored in the museum's giant tanks.
The gardens have been untouched, so to speak, for about 100 years or so, some of the parts anyway. So I think that there's a good chance that we'll find a lot of things we wouldn't find anywhere else.
The Natural History Museum holds more than 80 million specimens that have been collected over hundreds of years. And Blanca Huertas is one of the experts responsible for some of the most beautiful. She oversees the biggest and most spectacular collection of butterflies and moths anywhere in the world. She's been at the museum for 15 years, and butterflies have become a bit of an obsession.
Once you get into butterflies, you can get a little bit mad, and you don't stop thinking of them, you don't stop collecting them.
Blanca has 5 million butterflies to look after, and every year, passionate private butterfly collectors send her thousands more.
Every year I receive about 20,000 new butterflies to come into this collection, into this building. So I need to rearrange everything again just to put 1 or 2 specimens inside. So it's a never-ending job, never-ending. I can tell you I do this every day of my life for the last 15 years.
The butterflies come in all shapes, sizes and packaging.
We got hundreds and hundreds of boxes like this, and they contain specimens from 1911, and they send it on cigarette boxes, on biscuit boxes. People used to keep butterflies in cuts of newspapers. I get very distracted reading all of the stories. This is the story of a lady who is recommending soap with the smell of roses. So there's curiosities, lots of curiosities in this collection. This is the Queen Alexandra butterfly, the biggest butterflies in the world. This is called the blue morpho. It's flying in Colombia, where I come from. It's just such a big collection. You never finish anything. And when you do, it's about 5, 6 years of your life taken, only on one minor corner of the collection. So they take your life, definitely.
Coming up, getting T-Rex back on his feet.
It was a good point.
And the museum's smelly secret.
When it first comes out of the animal, it smells like crap, literally.
The Natural History Museum is in one of the richest neighbourhoods in Britain. But buried beneath its newest wing is a foul-smelling secret. 100 years ago, huge dead whales were brought to the museum to rot in specially dug shallow graves called whale pits. Once they'd rotted, their skeletons could be added to the collection. Whale expert Richard Sabin knows all about them.
These were huge holes in the ground, full of sand. You put your specimen into the sand, cover it over, leave it for a year or so. The bugs and the beetles come along and they do their business and they munch away at all the soft tissues. And after about a year, you actually end up with something that looks exactly like this wonderful photograph. It does generate an awful lot of smell. And with the wind in the right direction on a nice warm summer's day, you get complaints from the neighbours. And unfortunately, living in South Kensington, working in South Kensington, probably not the best place to be burying partially decomposed whales. There were quite a few complaints, and I think that's probably one of the reasons why, along with the Second World War, that the practice stopped.
And there are a few more surprising secrets from these gentle giants. This 100-year-old waxy lump might not look like much, but it's from a sperm whale's intestines and is extremely rare.
You'll smell it before you see it.
Known as ambergris, it's been used to make perfumes for centuries, and a piece this size would have been worth thousands of pounds.
This used to be more valuable than gold. Can you smell it yet? It's a really unusual material. It's basically made up of the parts of the animals that the sperm whale eats, things like squid. When it first comes out of the animal, it smells like crap, literally. Once it emerges from the sperm whale, it floats to the surface of the ocean, and then the waves start to wash away that horrible kind of fecal smell, the poo smell that it has. These lumps can float on the surface of the ocean for months or years before they wash up on beaches and are found by people. It has quite a pleasant, sort of musky, slightly sweet odour. I love the smell, I really do.
Ambergris was also loved by royalty.
There was a recipe that was a favourite of King Charles II, and it was lightly scrambled eggs with shavings of ambergris. Very unusual. Highly acquired taste, I should imagine.
Richard has spent the last 29 years in charge of the museum's huge and popular whale collection.
I think one of the things that really makes whales fascinating for people is the fact that they are so unseen, unknown, mysterious. For centuries, millennia even, these huge creatures have been such a surprise when they appear on our beaches. They suddenly appear from their world into our world.
In the grounds of the museum is a new building known as the Cocoon. In this 8-storey tower, hundreds of experts are busy with cutting-edge work. Today, abseiling cleaners Paul and Killian are polishing its 90-foot-high concrete surface.
So the Cocoon is where they store all the creepy crawlies. I've never been in there myself, though, because I'm not the biggest fan of creepy crawlies. And that's 8 floors of creepy crawlies, so I'm a bit too scared to go in there, to be honest. Especially wood lice. They freak me out. Too many legs. This is quite a complicated thing to clean, actually. It looks really nice. It's an interesting building, but I feel like the architect forgets the guys cleaning it sometimes. It would be really convenient if they painted it a different color, a bit darker. We're just trying to get all the dust off to make it look nice and white and pretty for the public. So it's kind of like extreme housework, really. Geronimo! Right, it's looking good. Looking nice and white again.
One of the museum's most popular attractions is its vast collection of stuffed animals. From ostriches to elephants, giraffes to gorillas, some of these animals are over 150 years old, and the collection is one of the biggest in the world.
He looks alive.
Those eyes.
But less than half of the collection is on display. At a top-secret location, far from the museum, thousands more fill a giant warehouse. Some of them have just been on tour abroad, and today they're coming home.
Hello, hi, it's Nicola from the Natural History Museum. Oh, perfect, 10 minutes. OK.
Getting them home safely means a nail-biting morning for Head of Conservation, Lorraine Cornish.
So we've got 2 lorries coming down here with 9 crates, over 70 specimens.
Nicola Farrington is in charge of today's delicate operations.
We have crates that contain really huge specimens like deer and antelope. We've also got Arabian oryx and orangutans. All hands on deck today to make sure everything goes smoothly. I think in there is a giant tortoise. Yeah, right. Don't quote me on that.
We're always watchful because we just want them to arrive safely.
The museum's stuffed animal storeroom lies behind locked doors. Lorraine is one of the handful of people with access to this hidden world.
You put the lights on, everything is still, but suddenly all the eyes are there, just looking. And it's a complete treasure trove for anyone who gets the opportunity to come and see behind the scenes. People who are fortunate enough to come into this space, and there aren't many, are always completely amazed. It's a world of wonder. They've all got their charm. Some more charming than others, possibly. This one always amuses me. You've got the fangs coming out here. Looks cute, but also menacing all at the same time. This probably stood in a Victorian parlour or something. You can see the wire, so where the claws are gone. He looks to me like would have been holding a tray or something. So just hiding round the corner, literally, because they're too big to go on any shelving. We've got some giraffes just hanging about, and I like to come and see them. It makes me feel quite small when I stand next to this one, but it is rather lovely. I like to come and stand amongst them. It's quite calming.
To Lorraine's eagle eye, this world-renowned collection is more like a stuffed animal's A&E.
I mean, everything I look at, I want to treat. Bit of a split bottom situation. This one, oh, just looking over and saying, pick me, pick me. There was a bit of literal jaw dropping on this one, and so they've just improvised, and they've done a bit of a crepe bandage just to kind of hold everything together.
But there's one type of creature that's never welcome inside the secret store.
Pests are our enemy number one when it comes to protecting the collections. You don't really see them, but if they get in and they start eating their way through a collection, there's nothing left. So we have to be vigilant, we have to be on it, and it's just a war.
These stuffed animals returning today can't just be unpacked, they need to be quarantined in case they've brought back any unwelcome visitors.
What we do is we put them into freezers, take them all the way down to around -30, so we can make sure that anything that has come back, little pests, little beasts on the taxidermy, will not be alive when we take them into the storeroom.
With 70 specimens returning today, it's a squash and a squeeze to get them into the giant freezer.
A bit like a jigsaw, isn't it?
We've got an orangutan coming after us now.
There's a troublesome tuna that I'm quite fond of. That's one I want to look at.
It's now 72 hours of deep freeze before Lorraine and Nicola can see whether their animals have returned home safe.
Can't wait to get into the crates. We've got to wait for a few days for that.
Inside the Dino Gallery, robot T-Rex has been out of action, needing urgent repairs to his tail, which has been making a worrying rattling noise.
That's the new part back in there. This is all nice and tight now. That rattle's gone. Nice straight back, knees bent.
Today, technicians Glenn and Alex hope that he'll finally be ready to meet his public again.
You get the controller. Mind your back.
Who's a good boy?
We'll have the audience back in the next half an hour. A lot of smiling faces. That's always a good thing.
With his tail firmly back in place, Rexy is back up and running.
This is one of the better things to repair. There's immediate thanks.
At Hever Castle, expert collectors from the museum are busily raking the grounds for rare British wildlife. It's part of a unique nationwide project to make a record of every species alive in the British Isles today.
All the grass here is just absolutely full of insects and spiders. Got tons in here.
Insect expert Gavin Broad has just found a rare wasp.
We've got a house-toyed wasp. This is one of the wasps that eats other insects alive. It's a kind of gruesome biology, but it's fascinating from my perspective. It's cleaning its back legs now. Got to keep yourself looking spick and span. It's got to go and attract a female, hasn't it? So, got to look good.
While fellow expert Ben Price has a very different type of insect in his sights.
I'm catching dragonflies. This is a blue-tailed damselfly male. They're really fast. You can't catch them from in front because they'll just dodge out the way. You got to sneak up behind them. This is also a damselfly. You can see it's an incredible green color. The hat, the shorts, sturdy boots and a net is pretty much unchanged from the way insect collectors would have collected 100 years ago. Well, those shorts were a bad choice today with all these nettles.
I'm not quite tall enough. I can't reach most of the branches on these trees.
Bug expert Max Barkley is beating rare beetles out of their hiding places.
That's a rather nice insect. This is the forest bug. It's one of the stink bugs. These produce a very unpleasant smell when you handle them, so I'm not going to poke it too much. So that's Cryptocephalus pusillus, this little beetle here. I bet we haven't got one of those on the project.
The team will only know if their wildlife treasure hunt has been a success when it comes to the final tally in just a few hours.
There's more than 20,000 species of insect in the UK, and it's always exciting for me when I see something that I've never seen before.
Coming up, we find out if the stuffed animals are still in one piece.
There's not often that you can say you've looked into an
orangutan's
orangutan's armpits.
And an incredible new find on the Great British Bug Hunt.
Oh, wow.
At the Natural History Museum's secret off-site stall, a group of precious stuffed animals is returning from a world tour. Today, the museum's head of conservation, Lorraine Cornish, and touring coordinator Nicola Farrington are about to find out if they're still in pristine condition. The next specimen is especially rare.
Looks good. Looks happy to be home, I think. This is a Bornean orangutan, critically endangered. Numbers are still in decline at the moment, so may yet become extinct. We certainly hope not.
It's nice to see it back, safe and sound. This is how he would have been in the exhibition. So, looking a bit more natural, really, hanging out on a branch or climbing on a branch, so we've got the branch included here.
They have to get up close to make sure there's been no nibbling by moths.
You see under here as well, Ryan? In the armpit.
There's not often that you can say you've looked into an orangutan's armpits, but, you know, a few people could say that, can they? But no sign of any insects, which is exactly what we want to see. Nothing to see here, which is such good news. Those eyes.
They're quite dramatic.
They are, aren't they?
Lorraine and Nicola need to inspect the rest of the fragile cargo to make sure they haven't been damaged while on the road.
We can take the front off, that would be great. It's obviously survived well, hasn't it?
Yeah, it's done pretty good.
Yeah. So this is an Arabian oryx, which is a sort of medium-sized antelope. You all right? It looks to be without damage, which is always a relief. It has survived the journey.
No dead beetles or moths after putting him through the freezer, so that's really good news.
Marvellous. I think we can tick this one off the list.
Excellent.
Yes.
You guys ready?
Yep.
2, 1.
Only now can these specimens be put back on the shelves until their next world tour.
I think that's a really good manoeuvre there, Nicola. I don't think I'd be able to do that.
So he's happy where he is then?
Yes, very happy.
Great.
He looks fine, and it's nice to see him back in the store for now, with all of his primate friends. So he'll be very safe here. He's just enigmatic, isn't he? Maybe he's thinking about something. Who knows?
It's the end of the day on the Great British Bug Hunt. And the moment of reckoning for the museum's team of collectors.
So that's a little parasitoid wasp. That's my great find of the day.
Wow. New to the species list as well.
Yeah, not had that before.
Brilliant.
It looks like they've got a bumper crop.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's a
Very
dragonfly.
nice.
Very
Okay,
cool.
right, let's put them in.
Take that
Splash
open.
freeze.
I think that was a pretty good haul.
There we go. Ooh. So they make a hissing sound as the tube is at room temperature, and it goes into a snap freeze to almost minus 200 degrees.
So, Laura, we've got quite a lot of bugs here and beetles, and hopefully some of those are going to be useful for you.
Oh, fantastic.
We've managed to find quite an exciting selection of insects, and I'm absolutely sure this will be the first time that anybody's sequenced
the DNA from these species.
4 or 5 racks of these today, so that's almost 500 samples, and that equates to about 100 to 150 species, 30 of which are brand new to our project that we haven't collected before, and that's amazing. We count this as a really, really successful day.
Today's haul from this historic castle will be flash frozen, so it can take its place in the Natural History Museum for hundreds of years. The Natural History Museum's dinosaur collection is world famous. Thousands of visitors pour through its doors each day to see the most incredible dinosaurs ever discovered, from the first T-Rex ever found to the most complete Stegosaurus skeleton in existence. But behind the scenes, there's a treasure trove of dino secrets yet to be revealed. Susie Maidment is part of the museum's team of dinosaur experts, and today she's unlocking a storeroom that's strictly off limits to the public.
What you see upstairs is just a tiny fragment of all the fossils that we have here. Most of them are down here in this room, where there are literally thousands of dinosaur specimens.
Here, in the bowels of the building, she knows something special has been hidden away. A crate from a famous dino dig in Lesotho, Africa.
That's really heavy.
That has never been unpacked.
OK, so you can see that we took this first plank off the box, and it's just full of these parcels that are wrapped up with these kind of tantalising notes on the outside, and we get to unwrap them and discover what's inside. It's like paleontology Christmas. What else do I have in my Christmas stocking? Ooh. It's difficult to know whether some of these have broken up as they've been in these boxes for so long, or whether they were broken when they found them. So this is one I'm really, really interested in. To most people, this might just look like a lump of rock, but to me, this is rather exciting.
Susie's expert eye has spotted that this small piece of rock contains prehistoric dinosaur bones. But finding out what type of dino they belong to is going to be a challenge.
This bone is really, really old, maybe as much as 199 million years old. And there's more bone inside this rock. We can't see the shape of that bone right now, but that's what we want to reveal.
Lesotho in Africa, where these rocks were found, is famous for early and rare dinosaurs, like Heterodontosaurus and Lesothosaurus. Susie's wondering if her rock contains bones from these creatures. To solve the mystery, she's using the museum's cutting-edge CT scanner.
I really hope that what we're going to see when we look at these images on the screen is a beautiful dinosaur skull in 3 dimensions preserved in these blocks of rock, and that would really make my day.
Susie must wait until the rock's been scanned and analysed to find out if it contains something special. The Natural History Museum is one of the most popular landmarks in London, and keeping this 130-year-old building sparkling for its millions of visitors is no easy job.
Who needs the GMA?
Specialist window cleaners, Killian and Paul, have the unenviable task of washing the 5,000 individual panes of glass that cover its facade.
We've been cleaning the windows here for about 6 years.
Probably the most important thing to wear when you're abseiling, at least for comfort, is a seat. So you get to sit down when you're working. It's pretty much like working in an office, really, just really high up. All right.
To get to the windows, the abseilers face a 100-foot drop.
Sometimes I do get a bit of a pit in my stomach before going over the edge, looking down and seeing how high it is. Wish me luck.
Attaching yourself to a historic building can be a bit unnerving.
If we're anchoring off of something that we're only 99% sure will hold, then I go first because I'm fatter. And that way, if it holds me, then it'll definitely hold him.
Every couple of months, I clean the windows at home.
I'm actually quite bad at that. I clean windows when my missus orders me to clean windows. Oh, I just put my hand in spider webs or something. Yep.
At this height, Killian and Paul can get up close to the building's history.
I guess the nice thing about being a Natural History Museum is that it's a really old building.
Many, many years ago, these handles here were used by window cleaners to walk along the edges and clean the windows, back before health and safety existed. This building has really amazing carvings. Some of them funny looking. It's nice, we are the only people who get to see them this close.
Do you want to hear a joke? You missed a spot.
Coming up, the museum's oldest exhibit.
So there are tiny grains held within this meteorite that are older than the moon, and they're older than the Earth, and they're actually older than the sun.
And the results are back from Susie's dino scan.
Oh, look at that. This is great news.
At the Natural History Museum, there's far more going on than the public get to see. It's also home to over 300 experts who study the natural world in labs across its sites. But much of their work takes place out in the field. Today, beetle expert Max Barkley is taking a trip to Hever Castle in Kent, which is home to an amazing selection of bugs.
We're in the grounds of Hever Castle, where natural history is going to meet real history. Of course, Hever Castle is the childhood home of Anne Boleyn, the mother of Elizabeth I. But we're here to look at beetles. And there's a nice old orchard there with some apple trees that look like they're a couple of 100 years old, likely to support some interesting beetles.
Max is taking part in a groundbreaking project which involves collecting every species of beetle in Britain. Today, he's hoping to find something new, but it's no easy task.
What would really excite me today? It'd be nice to see something I haven't seen before. And there's 4,000 species of beetle in Britain. I haven't seen all of them. That is a beating tray. Very simple, it's basically like an umbrella. And you hold it underneath the branch, and then you hit the branch with a stick. So, not very technical, really. Have a look along the sides of the tree here. Have a look particularly at the mistletoe, which is interesting. But this tree is encrusted with lichen. I mean, it's a very old tree, even though it's very small. There's a couple of things on the beating tray there. There's a beetle. Ladybirds are beetles, of course.
Max has been studying beetles for 25 years. It's a lifelong passion that's taken him across the globe.
Well, this net has been all over the world. It's been all over South America. It's been in Brazil. It's been up the Andes in Peru. It's been in Central America in Belize. It's been in North America as well. There's some blood stains there. That's probably from leeches in Borneo. So you want to beat the tree assertively enough that the insects are dislodged without thrashing all the branches and fruit off, of course. Especially because it's somebody else's tree. Any beetles? The grounds here are old. They're as old as the castle, of course. So you have some continuity of the habitat, and probably the beetles here are the descendants of populations of beetles that were here when Henry VIII and Anne Boleyn were still living in the castle. This is a shield bug. It's also called a stink bug. When you handle them, if they get afraid or distressed, they'll produce a very strong almondy smell, which is why they're called stink bugs. I don't like the smell at all, so I'm not going to handle it. And there's a flea beetle there. Let's put that in the tube. Another caterpillar there, it looks like a stick. And as you can see, it's doing quite a good job of it.
When you're collecting beetles in a historic orchard, snack time is a simple affair.
These fruits that look like cherries. It's not a cherry tree. Don't know what these fruits are. Well, look at that. Some kind of little plums. bad habit tasting everything. You don't want to do it in the tropical rainforest because some of the things can kill you. They're actually really nice. I don't know why some people get creeped out by bugs, really. I think they just haven't spent enough time looking at them.
It's been a successful day, and Max will now return to the museum with his fresh haul of beetles. Every year, the Natural History Museum holds its famous competition of wildlife photography. With almost 50,000 entries, it's the biggest of its kind anywhere in the world, and the most prestigious. The exhibition that reveals the winning photographs is a highlight in the museum's calendar. Today, Programme Manager Soraya Salvador and her team are installing the top 100 photographs.
Be careful here.
But with opening day just a week away, time is tight.
This is a really exciting project, and it's the result of the work of so many people, and it's really beautiful to see. This is the moment of truth. Wow, exciting! So these are the photos that people are gonna be able to see in 1 week's time here in the gallery. These prints are really delicate. That's why you see us using these gloves. We go around. Wow, this one is really spectacular, the colors. Okay, 1, 2, 3.
An expert panel of judges selected these winning shots, and they are now being carefully mounted.
No. For us, quality is everything. Every time we put an image, we need to assess if it's best, and this one, it's clearly not. Here and here. One, two, three. It's a little bumpy.
Each print is a challenge.
Not perfect, so we are not entirely happy. Maybe it's catching some moisture. We're feeling a bit the pressure because there's still a lot of work to do. We have to install the images today. Okay, let's go to the next one. 1, 2, 3. It's beautiful.
As it's the most popular event in the museum's calendar, the gift shop is also in a rush to get the new merchandise on the shelves in time for the grand opening.
Wildlife Photographer of the Year tote bag. It's a black bag. Who doesn't like a black bag?
I'm feeling great. I mean, it's the final last 5 minutes after 7 months of hard work. It's fantastic.
The Natural History Museum is full of unique objects that stretch thousands of years back in time. From prehistoric men to ancient insects and dinosaur fossils. But for Caroline Smith, who is a world authority on meteorites, there's one object that beats everything else in the museum, hands down. Kept tucked away, she's one of the few members of staff who's allowed to handle it.
So what I have in here, in this rather unassuming box, is actually one of our treasures of the meteorites collection and indeed of the museum. This is quite a smelly meteorite. I can smell it. It has a very distinctive smell. So some people have described it as smelling a little bit like gunpowder. So this is a meteorite called Murchison. It fell in Australia in 1969, and even though it looks like just a boring old lump of black rock, it's much more interesting than that. So there are tiny grains held within this meteorite that are older than the dinosaurs. They're actually older than the moon, and they're older than the Earth, and they're actually older than the sun. So there are some tiny grains held within this meteorite that are as old as 7 billion years old. So this is the oldest thing that we have in the museum. It's actually older than the solar system.
Remarkably, meteorites like this one could reveal how life on Earth first began.
We've always wondered how life started on Earth. You know, it's one of those really big questions. And what's so amazing about this meteorite is it's got all of the key building blocks that you need for life to start held within it. When you start taking them apart, you start revealing that they're really amazing secrets. They are like little time capsules and space probes.
Engine ignition, 2, 1, 0. Relation and liftoff.
As a world authority, Caroline has been recruited onto a very special project.
I've actually been working with colleagues from NASA for the last few years on the NASA Mars 2020 mission, the Perseverance rover.
She's given NASA a meteorite from the museum's collection that fell to Earth from Mars. And now, that meteorite is on board the rover on its way back to the Red Planet.
Another piece of this rock that I'm holding is currently winging its way back to Mars on a 100 million mile journey, and it's got a very important job to do. So not all of our collection is currently in the building. Some of it is elsewhere and some of it is indeed in space.
This meteorite will help NASA's mission to discover whether there's life on other planets.
To be involved in that mission, even in a very small way, is super exciting. That is the hairs standing up on the back of the neck and the sort of butterflies going in the stomach.
Dinosaur expert Susie Maidment has been waiting for the results from the CT scan of a mysterious lump of prehistoric rock that was found in Africa. And today, the results have come through. She's hoping they'll reveal that the rock has rare dinosaur bones inside.
There we go. Oh, wow. We've got a lot of detail here, which is really nice.
From the first glance, it's promising.
This is great news. This is really good.
To Susie's expert eye, it looks like the rock contains an incredible discovery, an extremely unusual dinosaur skull.
Is this the brain case here, do you think? Look, here's the back of the skull, and then these are the two processes that are sticking down from the bottom of the brain case. So I think we've got the back of the skull here. I think this should make this identifiable. So hopefully from this, we'll be able to tell what sort of dinosaur it is.
To find out for certain what's hidden inside, Susie is now enlisting fossil expert Mark Graham. She wants him to chisel away at the hard rock and expose the fossil skull beneath, without damaging it. Only then will she be able to identify whether this really is a rare dinosaur.
I've got some specimens for you.
Fantastic.
So these are the little skull blocks from Lesotho that we've CT scanned. This is really spectacular.
Oh, good.
So as you can see, there is a lot of bone in it.
Yeah.
But what the CT scan shows is that it really looks very promising as a skull.
This is brilliant, isn't it?
Looks quite exciting, doesn't it?
It does, it looks fantastic, yeah.
And then I think with that much skull material, we should be able to identify it.
This is beautifully preserved,
Isn't it? The more I look at this and the more I look at the scans, the more I'm convinced it's a small dinosaur. I'm pretty excited. I think this is going to be very cool, and I can't wait to see what we get out of it.
Exposing the bone from the rock is painstaking work and will take weeks to complete. Susie will now have to wait before the mystery of the skull in the rock can finally be solved. Coming up, Max uncovers an ancient secret.
These beetles were alive when the pharaohs were building the pyramids in Egypt. It's tremendously exciting.
And Susie gets special access to a museum treasure.
They're virtually priceless, so it's pretty exciting to be able to get my hands on them.
Susie Maidment and her team are working to uncover a dinosaur skull from a prehistoric rock. And while she waits for the result, Susie's been given special access to the remarkable fossils that sparked the discovery of the dinosaurs.
I've never got to handle these specimens before. They're absolutely iconic specimens for dinosaur workers. You know, the first dinosaur fossils recognised as such. So it's pretty exciting to be able to get my hands on them.
These small pieces are dinosaur teeth, and they're extraordinary. They were discovered by accident in 1822 in Sussex by a local doctor, whose wife saw them glinting by the side of the road. This chance find kick-started one of the biggest discoveries in natural history, that dinosaurs once walked the Earth.
It's incredibly difficult to put a value on these specimens because of their incredible historic importance to paleontology. They're virtually priceless. We will never be able to find the first dinosaur fossils ever again. In 1822, nobody knew about dinosaurs. There had been dinosaur fossils found before then, but people had thought that they were the bones of giant humans and mythical animals and things like that. After this discovery, people were then able to look at fossils and look at bones with a new set of eyes, and that led to an explosion in dinosaur research and study and discovery.
The Natural History Museum has 28 galleries and 450 interactive exhibits to entertain adults and children alike. Looking after them is a task that falls to special effects engineer Chris Russell.
I've been here for quite a long time now, so I know most of the behind-the-scenes parts of the museum.
Each morning, Chris and his team have 60 minutes to get everything up and running.
So it's just really just going around, switching everything on, and then going around the front and checking that everything's working properly. And slowly the museum comes back to life every morning. This is the earthquake floor. I'm actually just waiting for the floor to start moving, which it is now, and just going to make sure that all of these barriers are secure. Yeah, that's all looking good.
But today, Chris has saved his most special task until last. He's installing one of the most extraordinary jewels in the whole museum. Known as the Ostro Stone, it's the largest blue topaz gemstone in the world. Found over 30 years ago, it weighs 2 kilograms and is over 9,000 carats.
We're in the Minerals Gallery, one of the oldest style galleries in the museum, and we're looking at the Ostro Stone. It's one of the largest specimens of its type in the world and was found in the Amazon rainforest. So we've just been putting the gemstone back onto public display and then adjusting the lighting on it to bring out the best aspects of the stone. So as the visitor looks at the stone, the lighting changes and you can just see different colours that come through and different patterns as the light refracts through the stone. Gemstones come in all different shapes, sizes and different colours. And this is one of the most amazing ones we've got in this gallery. Really, really beautiful.
Natural History Museum beetle expert Max Barkley looks after one of the biggest beetle collections in the world.
We have one of the largest, one of the oldest, and the most comprehensive collections of its kind anywhere in the world. We have here about 22,000 boxes of beetles containing about 8 million specimens. One of my favorite things is in this cabinet. So these are the gold and silver chafers from the cloud forests of Central America. These have been called bling beetles. We think they're trying to look like droplets of water so that they can hide from the birds and monkeys. This is the biggest beetle in the world, and this species called Titanus giganteus. These can get to about 16 or 17 centimeters long, so they're bigger than your hamster, they're bigger than your budgerigar.
Recently, Max found a remarkable pair of beetles hidden away in the collection. They could be some of the oldest complete beetles ever found.
Well, this is one of the most incredible things in the collection, to my mind. This is a piece of wood that was dug up in the 1970s on a farm in eastern England. And in one of these channels, the farmer who dug it up, he found some dead beetles, and they're here. And so he brought these into the Natural History Museum. And the scientists who were here at the time said, no, this is not a British species of beetle. So there was always a mystery about these beetles. What were they doing here? Why were they here? What were they doing in that bit of wood? And so it was put into a drawer in the museum, and it was left, really, for 30 or 40 years.
The beetles lay undisturbed in the museum's vaults until Max came across them several years ago. He suspected the reason they were so puzzling was because they were incredibly old and were now extinct in the British Isles.
Well, I decided that we were going to find out once and for all how old these specimens were. So we sent some tiny samples of these beetles and of this piece of wood off to be carbon dated.
The results have just come back, and they're remarkable.
Just got the results back from this. And that's quite interesting because we always suspected that they were old. But actually, these beetles are older than the Tudors, older than the Roman occupation of Britain, even older than the Roman Empire. These beetles were alive and chewing the inside of that piece of wood when the pharaohs were building the pyramids in Egypt. They're 3,875 years old. It's tremendously exciting.
Max believes these oak Capricorn beetles died out in Britain as the climate changed.
So this is a beetle that's associated with warmer climates. And possibly it existed in Britain 4,000 years ago because the climate was warmer. And as the climate cooled and the habitats were destroyed, it became extinct. It's quite extraordinary to realize that you're holding something in your hand that looks like it was collected yesterday, and it's actually several millennia old. It's quite remarkable.
Max's ancient beetles will now go on display in a major exhibition. Being selected as one of the 100 winning photos to go on display at the Wildlife Photographer of the Year is a huge honour. Many of the chosen pictures were taken in remote locations. But British photographer Matt Moran took his picture just 10 minutes from his house in North London.
Here we are at the allotment where I've been coming for the past 4 years, photographing the foxes. And just a little bit further up ahead here was where I took the picture of the rat game.
For Matt, having one of his pictures chosen is a dream come true.
I've been entering the competition for the past 18 years, and I always thought the answer was just to go abroad and to exotic locations. And here we are in a North London allotment, and this time around I got lucky one night. There were a few just hanging out, so I'd get my camera out, and it was while I was lying on my front. A fox just exploded out from my right-hand side. It was a fleeting glimpse right in front of the lens. They were tossing the rat up in the air. It was entertaining to watch. It was these 3 foxes trying to gain ownership of the rat, and that's when I started to frame and just really fire away. Steam was coming out of my camera, and I knew that I've got to get this moment, I've got to get this shot. And I reviewed the pictures quickly, and I could see this one shot on the back of my camera, and I zoomed in, saw it was sharp, and I was like, yes, I've got it. I've got something really good here. I think if you ask any photographer, including myself, the one competition they want to have their work in, it would be the Wildlife Photographer of the Year. It's like the equivalent of winning the World Cup.
Behind the scenes at the museum, you won't just find rare specimens. There's also a vast library and archives holding over 300,000 spectacular illustrations and artworks of the natural world, all cared for by Special Collections Manager Andrea Hart. But the crown jewel of this collection is a book on American birds. It contains over 400 hand-coloured prints, capturing wildlife as never seen before. A rare copy recently sold at auction for £7 million, making it one of the world's most expensive books.
Okay, so this is one of the heaviest volumes in the library, but it's also one of the biggest treasures that we have as well. This is John James Audubon's Birds of America, first printed in 1827, and it is just full of the most amazing birds that he captured in watercolour. And the most incredible thing is that they are all life-size. You can just see that these are almost painted yesterday instead of nearly 200 years ago. So today I'm having a look through the volumes to choose another plate that we can put on display for the public to come and see. So I think this one is going to be the next one to go into the gallery.
The images are so sensitive to light damage that each one can only be on show for a limited time.
So we're in the Treasures Gallery, one of my favourite galleries at the museum, and about to swap one treasure for another. So So the tricky thing with these is that they are so big that you do have to take extra care when removing them. So it's always a relief when you get that out cleanly in one go. This is one of my favourite ones, I think particularly because owls are one of my mum's favourite birds. And hopefully we'll get it all in one go. There we go. Love this one because it really does look like the owls are really looking back at you. But anyway, I'm going to close them up, leave them in there until the next time. See you in a month.
In his lab, fossil expert Mark Graham has been chiselling away at the piece of rock given to him by dino expert Susie Maidment. A CT scan suggested there was part of a rare dinosaur skull hidden inside. But it will only be through Mark's painstaking work that the fossil will be revealed.
I'm getting rid of this crud, really. The trouble is the bones are lovely, but to get to them, you've got to remove all this just sort of crap. It takes forever to do it because it's so hard, so just got to be patient, keep at it, and eventually we'll get through to the good stuff.
One wrong slip could destroy a 199-million-year-old fossil that can never be restored.
One of the things I worked on took about 9 years to do, so that's an example of how long it can take around here to make progress on some stuff.
It is a very, very distinct and strange job, really. So I don't know, I'm probably a bit of a weirdo. Most people would probably tell you that, but I enjoy it, so I don't give a toss, really.
For Mark, working at the museum is the best job in the world.
If I'd seriously thought at 6 years old that I would have been working here, I would have been so excited. You know, I would have wanted to grow up really quickly. You kind of look back and pinch yourself and you think, how did I get here? And I still do that now. It's certainly a good party stopper. You go to a party and someone says, what do you do for a living? I say, well, I work with dinosaurs at the Natural History Museum. So they all think it's really pretty cool.
After weeks of careful scraping, Mark's hard work is finally paying off. A fossil skull is starting to emerge.
You know, some people who don't know would look at this and think it's just a lump of old rock with a couple of knobbly bits sticking out of it, but it actually represents something really important because there's a dinosaur skull in here. And not only that, but it's going to be a really, really rare dinosaur skull, so I'm super excited to get this job done.
Coming up...
Here it is.
The museum's major exhibition goes live.
It feels a little bit surreal, actually, looking at your work up here.
And the fossil skull is finally revealed.
This dinosaur is really, really quite rare. This is a significant discovery.
It's just a few days before the Wildlife Photographer of the Year exhibition finally opens to the public. The winning entries for each category have been unveiled, including the competition's overall winner, this Siberian tiger captured in the Russian Far East by Sergei Gorshkov. British photographer Matt Moran's picture received a highly commended in the mammal behaviour category. Today, he's getting his first glimpse of his photograph in the exhibition.
Here it is. It feels a little bit surreal, actually, looking at your work up here, you know, amongst all of this amazing selection of images from all over the world. I took this photo over a year ago now, and it's just amazing to be able to stand in front of this moment that I remember so well. I'm definitely proud of myself because I've been entering this competition for 18 years. So to be able to finally have my own panel up here with an animal that's just 10 minutes walk from my house is absolutely magnificent. This is the Holy Grail for sure.
Every visitor walks beneath the museum's spectacular hand-painted ceiling, but very few people have ever been up close. Today, botanist Sandy Knapp is going to inspect this unexplored treasure for herself.
I love this building, and I actually love this ceiling, and I'm so lucky because every single day I get to walk through those doors, I get to walk across this hall, look up and see all these amazing plants arched above me. It's something that starts every day with a lift. Hi, Tom. This is so exciting.
Sandy is hoping to identify key features on the paintings that can't be seen from the ground.
I'm getting to go up in this cherry picker to get closer to this amazing ceiling than I've ever been before, which has been one of my dreams for many, many years. Woo! Incredible.
The 60-foot-high ceiling is made up of 180 panels, intricately decorated with plants from across the world.
I mean, can you imagine putting all this decoration in a place where no one is ever going to see it? Those flowers are beautifully done in gilt, so it's hugely detailed, which you kind of don't see from down there, but I can see it for the first time here.
No one knows for certain why these particular plants were chosen. But now she's up close, Sandy has spotted that some of these panels appear to tell a story of the British Empire.
A few of the plants here on the ceiling are those plants that fueled the British economy in the Victorian times. So they were things like cotton and tobacco and tea, which were the real crops which brought in money. They also were involved with a lot of misery for the people who harvested them, enslaved people whose lands were taken, but that was how the British Empire was made. It's like a hidden treasure in plain view, isn't it? You know, you only see it when you look up. It's a work of art. In a way, this is our version of the Sistine Chapel ceiling, but I kind of like it better. It is amazing.
It's been 6 weeks since Susie Maidment handed over a seemingly unremarkable lump of rock to fossil expert Mark Graham. Today, he's finally ready to share the results of his hard work with her.
Oh my goodness, you've done so much to it.
Turned out really well. So the back of the skull's come out nicely. So I used the aeroabrasive just to remove that kind of rock that was over there.
That's beautiful. It's a beautiful job, though. Considering this is 200 million years old.
Yeah.
It is really well preserved, isn't it?
It is, it's lovely.
I'm really confident that we're going to be able to identify this. Brilliant, thank you very much, Mark. It's lovely.
Yeah, no problem.
See you later.
With her newly prepared dinosaur skull in hand, Susie is now ready to work out what it could be. The rock contained a small piece from the back of the skull. It's not much, but it's enough for Susie to identify it.
I'm really excited to look at this fossil now. Mark has done such a beautiful job on it. It is not a whole skull, but the vast majority of dinosaurs are known from just a few bones, and specimens like this have the potential to reveal all sorts of information that we didn't already know.
The skull was found in Lesotho in Africa, which narrows the field down. But to find out for certain what kind of dinosaur it is, Susie must examine key features in the fossil and compare it to similar skulls in the museum's collection. After hours of analysis, she thinks she can finally identify what kind of dinosaur the skull belonged to.
I'm quite excited by this specimen. I think I can be quite confident what it is, which is always nice. So the shape of the bones from our skull are really similar to those of this dinosaur here, which is called Lesothosaurus.
Lesothosaurus is an early and rare dinosaur.
I think that we can say with a lot of likelihood that this is Lesothosaurus. So this dinosaur is 200 million years old. Now, if you think about it, that is 140 million years older than T-Rex. So this was already a fossil by the time that T-Rex lived. And that's really, really exciting for me because it's the group of dinosaurs that I work on. And this is kind of where it all started for those dinosaurs. This is the back of the skull. So this is kind of this part here. And this is the eye socket. So that bit there.
and then its snout probably would have been over here. Now, the whole animal was about the size of a Labrador, and it had a stiff tail held out to the back. It walked on 2 legs, and it had short forelimbs that it used to pull food to its mouth. It would have eaten ferns and mosses, and there were no flowering plants around at the time. This dinosaur is really, really quite rare. There are maybe only 20 specimens of Lizzutosaurus anywhere in the world, and there's fewer skulls than that. So any skull material of this dinosaur is really, really important to us to help us to understand the anatomy of these animals.
Even with 10 million fossils, for experts at the Natural History Museum, there's always something new to learn.
People might think that we already know everything there is to know about dinosaurs, but actually the truth is we've only just scratched the surface. Every single fossil that we find tells us new information about dinosaurs, and this one here has the potential to really help us understand about the early evolution of some of the most exciting and interesting dinosaurs. So this is a significant discovery and a significant find.